Good evening. This is Sleep Chamber, a podcast meant to put you to sleep. I'm Henrik, and you don't have to listen to the words, but you can if you want. I won't ever in this podcast tell you to relax or to visualize meadows or butterflies or anything else. I'm just going to talk, and you can use my voice either way you see fit. It is what it is. What happens, happens. And as of right now, there's nothing we can do. There is a Swedish tradition during Midsummer's Eve that young girls collect 7 different kinds of flowers and place them under their pillow before going to bed. The flowers are supposed to bring you sweet dreams about your future husband. The tradition is called Bördebumbedibd, and it is said to originate from the 18th century. I tried it once, but it didn't work. Maybe because I am not a woman. But isn't that a bit unfair? Why can't men have sweet dreams about their future wives or husbands? Or maybe I did it wrong. I am not sure. I am not sure what the 7 different kinds of flowers are supposed to be, either. I just used 7 random flowers that I found in my garden. Maybe that was my mistake. In any case, it was a fun tradition to try out, and I would recommend it to anyone who wants to have a bit of fun on Midsummer's Eve. Just make sure you know what the 7 different kinds of flowers are supposed to be, and maybe it will work for you. Other midsummer traditions is to dance around a maypole and to eat pickled herring and new potatoes. New potatoes is a must on Midsummer's Eve. If you don't eat new potatoes on Midsummer's Eve, you will have bad luck for the rest of the year. That might not be true, but it is definitely a tradition. And it is definitely worth eating new potatoes on Midsummer's Eve, even if it doesn't bring you good luck. I really enjoy roasted new potatoes with rosemary and garlic. Another great option is boiled new potatoes with butter, salt, and pepper. Or mashed potatoes. I don't like gnocchi though. If I had to choose between never eating potatoes or never eating pasta again, I would choose to never have pasta again. I would rather never have pasta again than never have potatoes. I like both foods, but I feel like I could live without pasta a lot easier than I could live without potatoes. Plus, there are so many different ways to cook potatoes. You can bake them, fry them, mash them, and so much more. There are a lot fewer things you can do with pasta. Another midsummer tradition in Sweden is to eat strawberries and cream. This is usually served in a bowl with a glass of champagne or white wine. The strawberries should be ripe and the cream should be thick and rich. Yet another midsummer tradition is to sing songs. Traditional Swedish midsummer songs are often about love, nature, or the summer season. Many of these songs are hundreds of years old. We also always goes for a midnight swim at midsummer. Midsummer is the perfect time to enjoy the long Swedish summer nights. After dinner, we take a walk outdoors and then take a dip in the lake. The water is usually very cold, but it feels refreshing after a long day in the summer heat. After our swim, we sit on the dock and enjoy the view of the stars and the midnight sun. Midsummer is bittersweet though, because after that the nights get longer again. I love the Swedish summer and all of the traditions that come with it. One thing I do every summer is to go camping. I usually go with my family or with some friends. We pack up the car with all of our camping gear and drive out to the countryside. We find a nice spot to set up our tent, and then we spend the next few days hiking, fishing, and exploring the area. I always enjoy camping because it is a great way to relax and connect with nature. Once when we went camping, we got lost. It was getting dark and we couldn't find our way back to the campsite. We ended up spending the night in a cave. It wasn't exactly what we had planned. But life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. Camping is relaxing to me because I love being outdoors and being in nature. I love being able to explore new places and hike through forests and mountains. I also love being able to sit around a campfire at night and relax under the stars. Camping is also a great way to bond with family and friends. I always enjoy spending time with the people I love, and camping is the perfect way to do that. We can cook together, play games, and just enjoy each other's company. We usually play board games such as Monopoly, Scrabble, chess, checkers, Cards Against Humanity, Apples to Apples, The Settlers of Catan, Pandemic, Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride is my favorite. The way you play it is, players start with a hand of cards, each of which shows a route between two cities. The object of the game is to collect cards and then use those cards to claim routes. The player who completes the most routes wins the game. To claim a route, a player must play a set of cards that match the route's length and color. For example, a player could claim a yellow route between Los Angeles and San Francisco by playing 2 yellow cards. The game is won by the player who has the most points at the end of the game. Coins are earned by claiming routes and by completing destination tickets. The game is very strategic, which is so much fun. I highly recommend it if you like board games. My least favorite board game is Monopoly. I find it to be very long and tedious. I also find that it often leads to arguments between players. I much prefer games that are shorter and less competitive. I think that Monopoly is a game that people either love or hate. If you enjoy competitive games that take a long time to play, then you will probably enjoy Monopoly. If you prefer shorter, less competitive games, then Monopoly is probably not for you. I'm not very competitive. I'm more likely to cooperate than to compete. I'm more interested in working together than in winning. Sometimes I get happy if I don't win because I get happy by seeing the other that won. Some other things that makes me happy is I am happy when I am spending time with my family and friends. I am also happy when I am doing something that I enjoy, such as playing sports or listening to music. I like to play sports, but I have no ball control. Seriously, I am kind of bad at sports. Once, when I was around 12 years old, I was playing football. I was running for the ball and somebody tackled me from behind. I hit my head on the ground and was knocked out for a few seconds. While I was unconscious, I had a dream about a giant rabbit coming towards me. The rabbit was so big that it filled up my whole field of vision. It was coming closer and closer to me until it was right in front of my face. I could see its giant teeth and its big pink eyes. It was weird to see such a big rabbit. The rabbit looked at me and then it said, "Hello." "Hi," I said. The rabbit said, "Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you." I wasn't scared, I just thought it was strange to see such a big rabbit. Then I woke up and the rabbit was gone. After that experience, I was always really careful when I was playing football. I am always very careful, to be honest, in all kind of ways. I always think about what I am doing, and I never do anything without thinking it through first. That's just how I am. I guess you could say I am a bit of a perfectionist. I always want to make sure that everything is just right. I don't like taking risks. I would rather play it safe and not take any chances. I think that's why I am always so careful. It's just how I am. I don't know any other way to be. I guess you could say that I am a bit of a control freak. I like to be in control of everything, and I hate it when things are out of my control. I guess that's just my personality. I can't help it. It's just who I am. My brother is the total opposite. He is never careful. He is always careless. He is always making mistakes. He is never paying attention to detail. Once he was out hiking, and he slipped and fell, and he broke his leg. It was a total mess. But my brother just brushed it off, and he kept going. That's just the kind of person he is. He's always moving forward, and he never looks back. Even when he makes a mistake, he just keeps going. He also went scuba diving, even though he was totally afraid of it, because he wanted to face his fears. And he did it. He overcame his fear. And he had a great time. My brother is always up for a challenge. And he is never afraid to take risks. I admire him for that. Did you know that I am Swedish? As a Swedish person, I am raised on a wooden culture. Have you ever heard the story of Sweden's founder, Bert Channeling? Bert Channeling was born in 1926 in Stockholm, Sweden. His father was a strict disciplinarian, and his mother was a homemaker. Bert Channeling was an intelligent and enterprising child, and he began selling matches to his neighbors at the age of 5. He later expanded his business to include selling fish, Christmas decorations, and other items. When he was 17, he used his savings to start messing with people's minds, which initially was a bad thing. Bert Channeling rapidly expanded in the years following its founding. In 1948, the guy introduced his first furniture line. His furniture was designed to be simple and functional, and it quickly became popular with consumers. In the 1950s, he began to expand internationally, opening his first store in Norway. By the 1970s, Bert Channeling was operating in multiple countries and had become a global brand. Bert Channeling is now one of the world's largest furniture retailers, with over 400 stores in more than 50 countries. The company's simple, functional, and affordable designs have made it a favorite among budget-conscious consumers. Bert Channeling's success is a testament to his vision and entrepreneurial spirit. Isn't that a crazy journey? It's always been said that life is a never-ending journey. No matter where we come from or where we're going, we're always on the move. Sometimes, it's a journey we take alone, and other times, it's a journey we take with others. But one thing is for sure, It's a journey that is always worth taking. No matter what life throws our way, we always have the opportunity to learn and grow from it. Life is full of surprises, both good and bad. It's how we handle these surprises that defines us as individuals. The choices we make throughout our lives shape who we are and who we will become. There will be times when we stumble and fall, but it's important to remember that we always have the power to pick ourselves back up and continue on our journey. Life is a beautiful thing, full of love, laughter, and hope. It's a journey that is always worth taking, no matter what. Life is beautiful because it is full of possibilities. No matter what our circumstances are, we always have the potential to make something of ourselves. We can choose to be happy or unhappy, to love or to hate. Life is full of hardships and heartache, but it is also full of hope and possibility. We never know what tomorrow will bring, but we can always hope for the best. No matter what we go through in life, we always have the potential to come out stronger and wiser. We can choose to learn from our mistakes and make something better of ourselves. Life is full of second chances, and it is up to us to make the most of them. We may not be able to control everything that happens to us, but we can always control our own attitudes and reactions. We can choose to let the bad things that happen to us make us bitter, or we can choose to let them make us better. It is up to us to decide how we want to live our lives. That got deep. Let me tell you about the world's greatest giraffe instead. Thomas, the funny giraffe, was born in the African savannah. He was the tallest giraffe in his herd and had the longest neck. His long neck was an advantage that allowed him to reach leaves that other giraffes couldn't reach. As a result, he was always the first to eat and grew up to be the biggest and strongest giraffe in his herd. Thomas's early life was filled with adventure. He would explore the savannah, seeking out new places to eat and play. He was always the first to try new things and wasn't afraid of anything. His long neck allowed him to reach leaves that other giraffes couldn't reach, which made him the envy of his herd. Thomas's success came from his willingness to take risks. He was always the first to try new things and wasn't afraid of anything. His long neck allowed him to reach leaves that other giraffes couldn't reach, which made him the envy of his herd. As a result of his adventurous nature, he became the biggest and strongest giraffe in his herd. Thomas's biggest contribution was his willingness to take risks. He was always the first to try new things and wasn't afraid of anything. His long neck allowed him to reach leaves that other giraffes couldn't reach, which made him the envy of his herd. As a result of his adventurous nature, he became the biggest and strongest giraffe in his herd. Thomas was a funny giraffe who lived a life of adventure. He was always the first to try new things and wasn't afraid of anything. His long neck allowed him to reach leaves that other giraffes couldn't reach, which made him the envy of his herd. As a result of his adventurous nature, he became the biggest and strongest giraffe in his herd. Thomas also had a friend growing up, a hippo named Stephen. Stephen the hippo was always a brave creature. When he was just a young hippo, he would often go on adventures by himself, exploring the vast plains of Africa. One day, Stephen decided to embark on a new adventure. He would travel to Iceland. He had always been fascinated by the country and its unique landscape. Stephen packed his bags and set off on his journey. The journey was long and difficult, but Stephen persevered. Finally, after weeks of travel, Stephen arrived in Iceland. He was immediately struck by the beauty of the country. Stephen explored Iceland for many weeks, marveling at the glaciers, the waterfalls, and the northern lights. He even made friends with some of the local animals. One day, Stephen stumbled upon a group of humans who were hunting a whale. Stephen was horrified by this and decided to intervene. Stephen charged at the hunters, scattering them. He then led the whale to safety. The whale was very grateful and thanked Stephen for his bravery. News of Stephen's heroic deed spread quickly throughout Iceland. Soon, everyone knew about the brave hippo who had saved the whale. Stephen became a national hero and was even featured on the news. He was happy to have made a difference in the world. Stephen continued to live happily in Iceland for many years, inspiring others with his bravery. He was truly a remarkable hippo. You know how I said that I am from Sweden? Let me tell you about the different seasons here in the north. Sweden is a country located in the northern hemisphere, and as such, its weather patterns are largely influenced by the changing seasons. In general, Sweden experiences 4 distinct seasons: winter, spring, summer, and autumn. Winter in Sweden typically lasts from December to March and is characterized by cold temperatures, with average highs ranging from -5 to 0 degrees Celsius. Snow is also a common occurrence during the winter months, and the country often sees a significant amount of snowfall. Spring arrives in Sweden in April and brings with it warmer temperatures and longer days. The average high during this time of year is around 10 degrees Celsius. The spring months are also a time of increased rainfall. Summer is the warmest time of year in Sweden, with average highs reaching 20 degrees Celsius. The days are also longest during the summer months, with the sun setting as late as 10 p.m. Autumn arrives in Sweden in October and brings with it cooler temperatures and shorter days. The average high during this time of year is around 10 degrees Celsius. The autumn months are also a time of increased rainfall. Overall, the weather in Sweden is largely influenced by the change in seasons. The country experiences 4 distinct seasons, each with its own unique weather patterns. Sweden is a beautiful country that is worth visiting at any time of year. Sweden is bordered by Norway to the west and Finland to the east, and is connected to Denmark in the southwest by a bridge tunnel. Sweden has a long history and a rich culture. The Swedish people are known for their love of nature, and their country is often described as the land of the midnight sun due to its long summer days. Sweden has a strong economy and is known for its high standard of living. The country is also known for its generous welfare system, which provides free healthcare and education to its citizens. When I went to school, I loved to write essays. And I was really good at it. There is no one perfect way to write an essay, but there are some general principles that can help you get started and improve your writing. Now we'll explore some tips and techniques for writing a great essay, including how to choose a topic, how to structure your argument, and how to revise and edit your work. Choosing a topic. One of the most important steps in writing an essay is choosing a topic. You'll want to choose a topic that is specific enough to be interesting, but not so specific that you can't find enough to say about it. For example, if you're interested in the history of the American Revolution, you might choose to focus on a specific event, like the Battle of Bunker Hill. Once you've chosen a topic, you'll need to do some research to gather evidence and develop your argument. Try to find sources that are both reliable and relevant to your topic. In the case of the American Revolution, you might look for primary sources like letters or diaries from participants in the battle, as well as secondary sources like history books or articles. Structuring your argument. Once you have your evidence, you'll need to decide how to structure your argument. There are many different ways to do this, but a common approach is to start with an introduction that introduces your topic and provides some background information. Then, you'll present your argument in the body of the essay, using evidence from your research to support your claims. Finally, you'll conclude with a summary of your argument and a call to action, if appropriate. Revising and editing. After you've written your first draft, it's important to revise and edit your work. This is where you'll make sure that your argument is clear and supported by your evidence, and that your writing is free of errors. You might also want to have someone else read your essay to give you feedback. With these tips in mind, you're ready to start writing your own great essays. Wow, now I started thinking about my high school years. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. I was in high school, and life was both wonderful and terrible. On the one hand, I was young and carefree. I had my whole life ahead of me, and I was just enjoying being a teenager. On the other hand, high school was also a time of immense pressure. I was constantly worrying about my grades, my social life, and my future. But looking back on those years, I can say that overall, they were happy times. I made lifelong friends in high school, and I look back on those years with fond memories. Sure, there were some tough times, but overall, I had a great experience in high school. One of the things I remember most fondly about high school is the friendships I made. I was lucky enough to meet some really great people in high school, and we remain friends to this day. I don't know what I would have done without my friends during those years. They were always there for me, whether I was having a good day or a bad day. Another thing I remember fondly about high school is the sense of freedom I felt. I was finally out of my parents' house and living on my own. I could stay out as late as I wanted, sleep in as late as I wanted, and just generally do whatever I wanted. It was a great feeling, and I miss it sometimes. Of course, there were also some tough times in high school. I remember feeling immense pressure to do well in school. I was worried about getting into college, and I was also worried about my social life. I sometimes felt like I was juggling too many things at once. But looking back, I can see that those tough times made me who I am today. I learned how to handle stress and how to manage my time. I also learned how to be more independent. So even though high school was tough at times, I'm grateful for the lessons I learned. Overall, high school was a happy time in my life. I made great friends, I had a lot of fun, and I learned a lot about myself. I'm grateful for those years, and I look back on them with fond memories. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received, for good or for evil, in the superlative degree of comparison only. There were a king with a large jaw and a queen with a plain face. On the throne of England, there were a king with a large jaw and a queen with a fair face. On the throne of France, the grass was green again. The young leaves were expanding on the trees. The birds were singing in the hedges. Spring had come once more. In the next room, at the present moment, there sits a man, middle-aged, who has seen a great deal of trouble in his time and has had his share in all the doings of the last year. He is not an old man, but he is not a young man either. His hair is grizzled, and his face is marked, and his eyes are dull and weary. He has been at work all day, and he is still at work. Though it is now 9 o'clock at night. He is not a working man, but a gentleman. He is a medical doctor. He is not thinking of the spring, or of the green leaves, or of the birds. He is thinking of nothing but his work. He is thinking of a case which he has to solve, and which is giving him a great deal of trouble. It is not a case of life and death, but it is a case which is very perplexing and very puzzling, and he can make nothing of it. He has been over it again and again, and he has taken every possible view of it, and he can make nothing of it. The more he thinks of it, the more perplexed he gets, and the more he tries to think of it in a different way. The more perplexed he gets. He has been at it, off and on, all day long, and he is still at it now. Though it is 9 o'clock at night. Suddenly, he gets up from his chair and walks across the room to the window. He stands there for a few moments, looking out into the street. And then he comes back to his chair and sits down and begins to think again. I think I went through something when I wrote that. But my teacher praised it. She even sent it to a magazine. They published it. My mom was so proud, even though she did not understand a word I've written. And then I went on to college. I was young and idealistic, and I had the world at my feet. I was also broke, stressed, and often felt like I was barely scraping by. But looking back, those years were some of the best of my life. I remember the first day of college like it was yesterday. I was so excited to be starting a new chapter in my life. I had no idea what was in store for me, but I was ready for anything. And boy, did college throw me for a loop. There were the all-nighters studying for exams, the never-ending papers to write, and the constant stress of trying to keep my grades up. But there were also the amazing friends I made, the incredible experiences I had, and the lessons I learned. Those years were tough, but they were also some of the best years of my life. I wouldn't trade them for anything. I graduated college in May of 1999, and like many of my fellow graduates, I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I had majored in English, and while I loved reading and writing, I had no idea how to turn that into a career. So I did what many recent college graduates do, and I started searching for a job. The job market was not great in 1999. The dot-com bubble had just burst, and many companies were downsizing or going out of business altogether. I applied for dozens of jobs, but I only got a handful of interviews. I was getting desperate. Finally, I landed a job as a customer service representative for a small company. It wasn't my dream job, but it was a job. I was grateful to have it. I worked long hours and weekends, but I was happy to have a steady paycheck. Eventually, I started to move up in the company. I got promoted to a manager position and then to a director position. I was doing well, but I still wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with my life. Then, in 2008, the economy tanked. My company downsized and I was out of a job. I was in my early 30s and I had to start over. I took some time off to figure out what I wanted to do. I considered going back to school, but I decided that wasn't the right path for me. Instead, I started my own business. It was a risk, but it paid off. I'm now in my early 40s and I'm doing what I love. I'm my own boss and I get to help other people achieve their dreams. If I could go back and give my younger self some advice, I would tell him to be patient and to keep searching for his passion. It might take a while, but it will be worth it in the end. Looking back at my time working in customer service, I both miss it and at the same time I would never go back. However, customer service is one of the most important aspects of any business. It is the face of the company and the first point of contact for many customers. It is important to provide excellent customer service in order to keep customers happy and to ensure they keep coming back. There are a few key things to remember when working in customer service. The first is to be friendly and helpful at all times. This means being patient with customers, even when they are angry or upset. It is also important to be efficient and organized so that customers do not have to wait long for assistance. Another important aspect of customer service is being able to upsell. This means convincing customers to buy more expensive items or add-ons without being pushy. It is important to strike a balance between being too pushy and not pushy enough. Finally, it is important to always follow up with customers. This means sending thank you notes after a purchase or following up after a service call to make sure the customer is satisfied. Following up shows that you care about your customers and their experience with your company. Providing excellent customer service is essential to the success of any business. By following these tips, you can ensure that your customers are always happy with their experience. I'm not sure what I expected when I took my first job, but it certainly wasn't what I ended up getting. I was young and naive and thought that working would be a breeze. I mean, how hard could it be? You just show up and do your thing, right? Wrong. Working is hard. It's not just the physical labor that can be tough, but the mental labor as well. You have to be constantly thinking about what you're doing and making sure that you're doing it right. And if you're not careful, you can easily make a mistake that can cost you your job. But it's not all bad. Working can be rewarding, both financially and emotionally. It can give you a sense of purpose and satisfaction. And it can be a lot of fun, too. I've had some of the best times of my life while working. So, if you're thinking about getting a job, go for it. It's not always easy, but it's worth it. There are many benefits to working hard. One of the most obvious benefits is that it can lead to success. Hard work is often a necessary component of success. If you want to achieve something, you need to be willing to put in the effort. Additionally, hard work can lead to personal satisfaction. Even if you don't achieve your goal, you can still feel proud of yourself for putting in the effort. Another benefit of hard work is that it can help you build character. People who work hard are often seen as being more reliable and responsible. They're also often seen as being more resilient because they've had to overcome challenges in their lives. Hard work can also teach you important life lessons. However, it is also important to know the value of relaxing. In our fast-paced, constantly connected world, it's more important than ever to take some time out for ourselves and relax. Whether it's taking a few deep breaths, going for a walk in nature, or spending time with loved ones, relaxation can help reduce stress, improve our mood, and boost our overall health. There are many different ways to relax. And what works for one person may not work for another. However, there are some general tips that can help everyone find a way to relax that works for them. First, it's important to find a quiet, comfortable place to relax. This could be a room in your home, a park, or anywhere else that feels calm and safe. Once you've found a good spot, try to focus on your breathing and let go of any thoughts or worries that are on your mind. If your mind wanders, simply bring your focus back to your breath. Another great way to relax is to get moving. Exercise releases endorphins, which have mood-boosting effects. Even a short walk can help reduce stress and improve your overall sense of well-being. Finally, try to focus on the present moment and savor the simple joys in life. This could be anything from enjoying a cup of coffee to taking a few moments to appreciate the beauty of nature. Relaxation is a valuable tool that can help us cope with stress, boost our mood, and improve our overall health. By taking some time out of our busy schedules to relax, we can recharge our batteries, refocus our minds, and feel ready to take on whatever life throws our way. So next time you're feeling overwhelmed, take a deep breath and remember that relaxation is just a few minutes away. Not that I know anything. I'm just some dude with a podcast. Good night.